Hey, this is the Daily Overpass. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now today, let's answer the question, can you lower the cost of an app by designing it yourself? Alright, so today I want to answer a question that came in on episode 598 from Robert Anderson. Robert says, thanks for the content. I enjoy your videos and I'm kicking around the idea of producing an app. Yeah, you should. My question for you is, how much can a person with a design background do/provide to a developer to defray app development costs? Does the creation of mock-ups, assets, even the creation of storyboards in Swift or Android Studio significantly reduce the price? What other non-coding things can one provide? Good question, Robert. Yeah, I think I may have talked about this once before, but yeah, absolutely it would reduce the cost, right? One of the big things that we struggle with, well, we don't struggle with it, but is getting the vision of the clients in line with the vision of the developer so that both sides are working off the same thing. So even we start off with the design phase when we do projects now, because in the beginning we were saving design till the end. We'll work on the icon at the end. We'll do the, everything's working. We'll do everything from a technical point of view, which was very difficult because a lot of the times the scope creep would come from design. It was once the client saw it and that, let's change this, let's change that, and we would get scope creep that way. So now we do everything in the beginning, and it's not uncommon to produce a design and show it to a client and have them say, I'm not quite sure I like that. This is the reason why we hire full-time designers, just to make sure that we don't get that, but from time to time we do, and it's just getting those subjective sides of things. The thing about code is, and I know there's lots of different ways to do code, and there's good coders and bad coders, but you can measure what it's supposed to do. You can say, when you submit this function, or when this function gets called, it should do A, B, and C. If it fails, it should return this, this, and this, right? You could put everything in a document or in a flow chart, but with design, it's much more subjective. So you get things like, like we did a game for a client and years ago, and we had these conversations like, yeah, the main character is not cute enough. Okay, now he's too cute. The bad guys are too scary. Oh, now they're not scary enough. And it wasn't concrete. We had to keep going through and keep delivering these designs, and it was much more iterative to do that. So if you could do the design work, you definitely make it easier. Now, I don't think about doing storyboards in Swift or in Android is really going to help the developers that much. It's more providing them with the assets and showing them what it would look like. Now, if you're not a designer, for those guys who are not a designer, you could significantly reduce the cost by producing wireframes. And you don't have to use Balsamic or whatever the major tools are, Adobe XD, and what's the other one, the prototyping one, proto.io, where you don't have to use any of that kind of stuff. Just use pen and paper, or when we do games, I use graph paper and a ruler and a pencil and just sketch out some ideas. They don't look great, but they get the flow of the application. So what's the first thing the user should see? Go to the next one, go to the next one. If you could do something like that, that takes a lot of the guesswork out for the developers. They don't have to think about how things should work. Because a lot of times when we get clients, a lot of times they'll give us a document that's just all text. It's like, this is what the user should be able to do, this should do, and they'll describe it, like they might even describe what each form is like. But for me, it helps if I could just put it into some wireframes. So I use Balsamic, which is like a really old tool, but sometimes it's just sketching it on a piece of paper. In fact, a lot of times when we meet with clients first time, it's just sketching it out. And on those rare occasions when we have a client that comes to us with design assets, with wireframes, they're able to explain exactly what the application should do. It's already written down. We could get the developers working on it without us having to go through and think, okay, so where do we log out? If we forget password, where do we do this? When we go to this way, there's no way to get back. That kind of stuff, because the user's already, or the client has already thought of it. So Robert, absolutely, you should be able to reduce the development cost by doing that kind of stuff and do as much of that stuff as possible. Plus, it just works out a lot better. We've been able to do projects for much cheaper because we've been doing them for designers, and they've been able to give us all the assets we needed. So anyway, and for those guys out there, other app developers out there, let me know if you disagree with that, but I think it significantly reduced the price because we have to add a lot of costs on, because it is that subjective nature of design that we have to make sure that we don't that when we do run into the scope creep and all those iterations, that we can cover those kind of costs. So hopefully that's helpful, Robert. Let me know what the rest of you guys, what do you think? Do you disagree with that? Because yeah, I think it's pretty standard. Anyway, that is it for today. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.